revel in this new technology that we can have people from all over the planet coming together in community and hopefully intimate community. So, Jaylene, raise your hand so everybody knows who you are. There you are. And Christy?
Hi.
And Michelle, who is the one who's been so responsible for creating this magical technology. So I am not going to, forgive me, Jaylene and Christy, I'm not going to read your biography. I think that's on the website. Is that okay with you?
Perfect.
We're just going to assume that you are absolutely experts in the S.T.A.R principles, the S.T.A.R now state of being, and we're just going to play. And in the playing, what I would love is if everyone who is listening, who will be joining in over the next 5 minutes or so, would fall in love with the word surrender. Jaylene, I remember you have told me that very often as a publisher at Gather Insight, that whenever you suggested an article or a conversation around surrender, that there was a lot of pushback. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure can. It's just fascinating to see that here's this beautiful word and this beautiful concept, and when people see that word and concept, they go, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. That just sounds way too scary to me. Surrender means losing my power, but actually it means going to total power.
So, Christy, your thoughts on total power with surrender, or the opposite, which is the fear?
Well, I think that the word does hold a lot of power in and of itself. I think that's the charge we hear sometimes surrounding it, and I think it's just a minor shift in perception when we look at the term from the personality or the ego. I think oftentimes people think it means giving up, and when we look at it through our soul eyes, through our divine language, I think it means giving in to that which wants to move through us. So it's a beautiful thing, and I can also understand, if looking at it from the other perspective, why there's the ugh.
Well, as I wrote in the most recently published book through Gather Insight, the first thing I thought of was Napoleon. And so I'm just going to repeat that story a little bit. Surely Napoleon surrendered at Waterloo, and I don't think that was probably very pleasant for him, because he had to give up everything: reputation, wealth, prestige, his emperorship, everything you can imagine. And that has to be the very first definition of surrender. But what I have come to understand is that words can be defined in our book's language from the perspective of different octaves, or as others would say, dimensions. So when we are looking at the Napoleonic surrender, could it be that we would have our feet firmly entrenched in the current dimensional reality in 3D? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. To surrender in other realms seems like a very natural state of being, because you're in the other realm. There is nothing that is restraining you when you're there. But here on Earth, we have gravity, we have all these other forces, we have opinions of other people, we have conflict in the world. So the concept of surrender changes when you're on the Earth plane, I think. What do you think, Nina?
Absolutely. That's why I brought up the whole thought. So, Christy, your comment.
Well, I think it brings to mind two other very, very powerful words in our society, and that is win and lose. And I think when we bring the word surrender, I think automatically calls to mind when we are really not in the higher dimensions, the concept of lose. I don't want to lose. What am I losing?
Interesting. You know, I thought maybe in the beginning it might be appropriate for me to just go back in history a little bit and explain, though it's in the book, how S.T.A.R came into my awareness. In 2007, I was asked to create a business plan and to attract millions of dollars to a project in Santa Fe for star dreaming, which is a contemporary sacred site, a new sacred site. Well, I said yes. And I was thinking, well, how do you raise millions of dollars? And I remembered what I had done in Philadelphia. And so I placed a call to a foundation. I have a friend who was the vice president of the foundation, and I was going to get advice on how to do this because, heck, I'd never done it before. And I thought all the help I could get would be really great. And she didn't call me back. Well, she was my friend. And I thought that was really weird because not only did I want to hear from my friend, but I wanted help. And I wanted help from the best. And then I stopped and I thought, maybe the universe is talking to me. And I'm just not going to worry about this. And I'm not going to push. And so I have a red leather chair, and I'm so sorry the camera is not focused so that you can see it because I like to think it's pretty famous now. And so I just decided instead of picking up the telephone and calling and saying, why didn't you call me back? I need your help. I'm going to go sit in my red leather chair. And so what did that mean? It meant that I believed that I was doing my life's calling. I was surrendering, even though I didn't have a really full concept of that word, to the will of the divine. And if that were true, I would not have to force. And I wouldn't have to ask anybody for anything. How about that? So I decided that I was going to manage this multi-million-dollar plan by sitting in my red leather chair, and I did. And what happened, I was on a telephone call to a stranger in Philadelphia, Richard, and I was talking about trust configurations because I figured that star dreaming should be put into a trust for its safety. And all of a sudden, I practically fell off my chair because this stranger said to me, well, how much money do you need? Well, I mean, I hadn't asked him for anything. I didn't know he had money. So this is an example of what we're talking about right now. And not only did Richard say, how much money do you need, but on another occasion in Jackson Hole, I was having breakfast with another stranger, and he said, well, what do you do? And I told him, and he said, send me your business plan, it's a done deal. So this is what, for me, surrender is all about. It is living in the flow, but not doing it from the ego personality perspective, because then my little symbol, then I'm pushing and I'm trying to get the world to respond to my command. And I think I'm just going to take over the whole program, so I'm going to stop talking. And what we see here is a whole lot of other people have joined us. It's wonderful. So while Christy is handling her telephone, Jaylene, jump in and talk about my red leather chair. Oh, you have one.
Well, actually, I have I see Christy is gone now.
Well, I wanted to get rid of my phone.
Okay, good. This is kind of fun to see everybody on this little row on the bottom. It's very interesting. Well, I remember your red leather chair because the very first conversation that you and I had together, I was in my ghetto chair that I have in my office. But that ghetto chair I have in my office, it's not very pretty, but it's so comfortable. And whenever I get into it, That's when I get into the flow and I have these amazing conversations with people. And we're bringing in these concepts and trying to figure out how to communicate them to other people. But it's just, it's got a great vibe to it. I don't know what it is about it. It's not very pretty.
Oh, but when you sit in it, it's beautiful.
It, it's absolutely beautiful. Well, I wanted to share one of my first like conscious experiences with surrender happened in Hot Springs, Arkansas, a few years back. And I went into a bookstore, and I was with Star Fuentes in this bookstore, and we were there for her book signing. And this woman came up to me, and she was from South Africa, and she was like, "Oh, you've got to go and talk to this person. You've got to go and talk to this person." And she handed me this book called Angel Blessings Cards. And she had it open to this one page. And I've been working with surrender very consciously in my life, trying to figure out what it was that was going to be my next step. It was like right at that bridge time between what I was doing then and the creation of Gather Insight. So it was like, one of those really funky points in life. And she handed it to me. It was Michael that was talking. No, it wasn't Michael. It was Angel of Surrender, and I can't remember who it is. It's like Zag Zagdiel or something crazy like that. But the prayer in there was, "Take me, God. It is my will that your will be done in my life." When I read that, it opened me up so much. It was like freedom. It was like, that's my answer. That divine will replace my free will, which is kind of like the little kid is trying to tell its mom and dad how to do something, but divine will is like something else where it really understands the direction that you're going into.
So, Christy, is this a simple process, but perhaps not easy? What has it been like in your life?
Ah, I
Look at your facial expression. You don't have to say a word.
I have been coming up against the word surrender in my life for over and over again. It seems like I think some people have the idea, and maybe this is the reality in their life, that, oh, if I could only surrender, then I'll break open and be able to express my authentic self. And what I have found in my own life is that it's a cycle. It's a constant process of learning to surrender through all sorts of different life scenarios. And the big surrender for me happened. It was about 4 years ago now, when I decided that even though I was very successful in my career in veterinary medicine, it wasn't the life that I was really soul contracted to live. I just felt like I wasn't. After 20 years in the field, it was time for me to move on and really find my calling, my reason for being here, my passion and true purpose. But my ego personality was fighting tooth and nail, because look, there's just nothing sensible to the analytical mind about leaving a field where you're making a lot of money, you have stability, respect, you've got the house and the clothes, and
I your shoes, speaking of clothes.
yeah. Yes, I really got to the point where my husband literally said, these were his exact words, "I don't care if we lose everything. I don't want to live this life where you are unhappy and stressed constantly. It's affecting my life too." And that was the law, that released the logjam for me. It was just boom. I just blew open, because with those words of permission, I was allowed to really walk into what surrender meant to me, which was, I have no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow, and I have no idea what it's going to look like, and I don't know what I'm going to have to go through in order to get to this period of this place of authentic living, but I'm just going to jump. and it's been a beautiful ride ever since.
Well, I guess I love that story, and I love that you are capturing it in our new book, S.T.A.R, The Fascinated Observer's Guide. I guess my next question goes to the essential qualities that were discussed in S.T.A.R. Can we surrender as you just described it, and as I described it, and Jaylene described it, if we are not fully embracing our human divinity? What do you think, Jaylene? Can the ego personality handle it?
It can handle it to some extent, I think. But to take it to the level and the octave that we're talking about, the S.T.A.R principles, I think there's like a plateau that you reach. And until you start that acceptance of, I am divine, and you're able to really believe it to be true, I think that there's like a plateau. What do you think, Christy?
I absolutely agree. Yeah. I can't really add anything to that right now, but yes, I do believe that.
Well, I think that's an important question, because as we are talking about the the 4 S.T.A.R principles, surrender, trust, allow, receive, which we'll do over this month, it is really important, I believe, that we also have a discussion with each principle of what I call the essential qualities. And so human divinity is the one that comes first, therefore it is partnered very nicely with surrender. And just to sort of recapture it, I've done this a lot with the Gathering of Golden Dolphin gatherings, and also in my book. But when I talk about, and when we talk about in the book, the pillars or the legs of a chair, however you want to look at it, to me it is critical that these qualities, and I'll just do them briefly and then we'll expand on them over the month, acceptance of human divinity, self-love, living in the now, which I call play, and the expanded golden rule, which is basically be nice, do unto all creation as you would have all of creation do unto you. So this creates a very strong foundation, especially when all of the pillars are equal, on which to place the principles of S.T.A.R, surrender, trust, allow, receive. So I'm just going to propose that for me, the concept of living these principles and surrendering to the will of the divine is challenging if we don't have that foundation. What do you think, Jaylene?
I'm always thinking something.
I know you are.
That's my job. Here's what I think. I'm not sure how it works to let other people come in and give their feelings about that. But I see one person on here that I know personally is pretty familiar with it, and I'd love to put her on the spot because Joanne Sprott's in there somewhere. And she's the one that did the copy editing for the book.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, I can't wait to meet you. Michelle, can you unmute her?
I believe.
Yeah, Joanne Sprott.
She should be unmuted here.
I think if we run the cursor along the pictures, we get a name.
Joanne, can you?
And there are lots of people.
She's raising her hand.
Can you speak, Joanne?
Oh, there she is. Okay. Oh, I guess I have to unmute you. Oh, this makes me feel powerful. Did it work? Are you there?
Joanne, can you speak?
Well, you can tell this is new technology. So.
That's what makes it fun, because we're surrendering.
Okay, I seem to have been given the power to unmute myself.
There we go. Fantastic.
Man, the whole fabric of space-time just twitched at least twice, I think. So.
By the way, hello! I just love you.
Hi, Nina.
Yes.
Oh, you're welcome. I had fun. This was one of the the books that really had a personal effect on me, and I've read a ton of this kind of book before. I really liked the structure that you built, and was able to start implementing it on a daily basis, which is unusual. A lot of times we'll read a book and put it down, and you know, so we get it in our intellect, and it just doesn't filter down into practice. But like Eckhart Tolle, it's a good example of someone who wrote in such a way as to give you something to take with you to practice with. And you've done the same kind of thing with the structure that you built. It's easy to remember, and it's easy to shift it from a word to an attitude that is then projected out into your behavior, okay? So it sounds just like, 4 simple words, but it's I don't know, the way you did it is just kind of like really interesting. So that's the main reason I'm here. So this is one of Jaylene's books that I thought was really not that they aren't all important, Jaylene, but this one impacted me more than some of the others. So.
Well, I think what I was
So
asking,
you had a specific question. Now I've forgotten what it was because I was 56. So go ahead.
that's okay. That's okay. It's all perfect. But what I wanted to know is when you read this and you started to practice surrender, and you looked at those 4 essential qualities, what was your experience? Give us your experience of surrender post reading the book.
It's hard to describe because it's a place of the word open comes to mind, and it's kind of like a feeling that's sort of down in the middle of you. It's bodily. It's something that happens inside your whole body, or maybe depending on how you feel about what a soul is, or your chakras or whatever. But it's an actual feeling of release that then affected the way I would answer questions from people around me, even. The way, the amount of times I would say yes to things instead of no. And the way I would feel about saying those things. And just waking up in the morning and actually going through the whole sequence in my mind and trying to incorporate it into all of me, which means your body is your manifestation of your soul on the planet. So it has to be something you can feel inside of your body. That's the way I looked at it. And that was what I liked about this system, was that I could just sit and feel all those pieces going through, because without all of them, I could not get to receive. So and it was just like this chain, this sequence going through the middle of me that said, oh, it's all okay. And then I would get up from there and can't remember right off the top of my head if a whole bunch of weird, cool things happened in my life 5 minutes later or not, but I just feel like I took another step, and I've been working this kind of thing for the past 12 years. So it got me off whatever plateau I was on at the time. So.
Yay! I'm going to jump in there and just say how much this touches my heart, and I can feel it. So forgive me. To have a thought and to try to figure out what that thought is and how it impacts my life personally, and then to, some call it courage, begin to move it out into the lives of other people through the S.T.A.R clinic, and then to have Jaylene come to me and say, how about writing a book about this? And then to have people read it, and then to have someone, as we just heard, express, and this happened to me yesterday, from strangers who were talking about S.T.A.R in their life and how much how much power it gave them. I mean, I can't tell you what this feels like. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And my biggest dream is that everybody on the planet be exposed to this. What they do with it is what they do with it. But just to have these tools and to make the decision, yes, this makes sense in my life, or no, not today. Um, so that's why I am so grateful to Jaylene, because Nina can't, as much as I would like, visit everybody on the planet. I would probably, I'm so compulsive, I probably would do that. No, I don't have to. And then we have this technology to play around with the words.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing about a book is, I'm just seeing books as extensions, because some people think, oh, I'm going to have a best-selling book and make a lot of money or something like that. But for most people, that's not what happens. And even the famous ones have to keep writing books or they're not going to make money. So the idea is you've got this message, but you're right, Nina. It's only going to stay in a local space. Reaching out is what the whole printing press was invented for, hundreds of years ago. And now we have these other ways of reaching out. We only get like 10 people at a time on this, but there are other ways of doing this with more people. But just having that book, you're right, out there for people to pick up and decide if it's right for them at the right time, and it will always be there for when it's the right time for that person.
Actually, we have lots of people on the call. It's just 10 people are visible and have the opportunity.
Oh, that's how. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Right. Everybody can hear the broadcast, but only 10 people can interact. Yeah.
And what we're gonna do in the next hour is open it up to everybody who's present, and hopefully they'll ask.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about this tool, of this Hangout thing, but I haven't been to one yet, so I hadn't realized. I'm still trying to work into my head exactly how you would like run something like that. So that's cool.
Well, let me just take the platform for a second and talk about a really outrageous experience where S.T.A.R was critical. And I should back up and say, writing the book, as Christy and I are experiencing right now with the new version, the guide, you actually are plunged into the S.T.A.R principles on a daily basis. So you can't write any book, I guess, unless you are experiencing it. So one of the most dramatic experiences I've had recently is my inner voice, which is how I live my life now, told me that I was to express something called the S.T.A.R Clinic. And without going into great detail, the S.T.A.R Clinic is an interdimensional, intergalactic construct that had never been on the planet before, and I was to bring it into material form. Well, here I am in my bed at 2 o'clock in the morning in horrible perspiration, rolling around, not knowing how to do this because I've never done it before and nobody on the planet has ever done it before. So how do you do it? What are the tools by which you do it? And am I going to be successful? Is anybody going to show up? How am I going to pay for it? What am I going to say? Who's going to help me? I mean, all of the questions of the ego personality. And then all of a sudden I said to myself, well, I'm writing this book about S.T.A.R. I wonder what it is that I said in my book. They're going to help me through this process. And then I remembered, oh yeah, the book's about S.T.A.R. So, maybe I should take a peek at that and see how to get through this experience by using the S.T.A.R principles. And I asked myself, who is it that is afraid? Because obviously that's what I was expressing. Who is it that's afraid? And obviously it was not the divine human, because what can the divine human not do? It was the ego personality. And the second I recognized that in myself as the fascinated observer, then I began to relax. And it didn't matter if anybody showed up. It didn't matter if it broke my little piggy bank. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. The only thing that mattered was I had an inner voice. I trusted my inner voice, and I was being asked to do the never been done before situation, and whatever would happen would be perfect. So that's how I live my life now, 24/7 to the best of my ability. And it has made such a difference, which is why I am so passionate about and grateful to all of you in assisting me in sharing these principles with the world, because it is a tool, as Jaylene shared, it is a tool for living in and creating the new earth. So again, I could just go on and on and on. So Christy, jump in and
Well, when I you talk about getting pulled into this material, it's really true, because when I started writing this book, I had made all sorts of arrangements in my life to just become this full-time writer. And 2 days into this new role that I had created for myself, I was just staring at the computer screen one day, and pop, there was a big black circle in front of my left eye. I had no vision out of my left eye. I'm like, what is this all about? And I tried not to panic. I did a little search, mayoclinic.com, and tried to tell myself I didn't have all of these eye disorders that would leave me blind, and just shut the computer off and realized, look, I can call the ophthalmologist and get an appointment, and until then, I can't do anything. I really do have to surrender to this, and I can either have a nervous breakdown over it, or I can just receive the gifts that it's asking me to receive in this moment. So it really was not only an exercise in surrender, trust, allow, receive, and it's a gift that keeps giving. I still have very little vision in my left eye, and won't for a few months. But it really did make me go through the what Nina called the essential qualities of self-love. Look, I'm in this situation. What am I going to do about it? I felt an incredible amount of love for my eye, that it's a condition that is caused by a lot of stress, too much cortisol in the system. And so what happens is it creates a weakness in a vessel, which then leaks water under the retina. So it was the true physical embodiment of what I had put my body through for many, many years, and that's just too much stress. And so it was an opportunity to just pour love into that, because how sad what we make our bodies do, for the sake of our ego structure and our personality that pushes us to beyond human limits. And it really was an exercise in human divinity, because it was about, look, I created this. How's it changing me? How's it affecting me? What's its gift? It was, it still is a profound teaching for me. And that is another opportunity just to really glide into the principles and live them effortlessly.
So Christy, what comes to me is your conversation with yourself about different vision. Can you talk about the inner vision, the third vision, and how this is going to perhaps impact the actual writing of the Fascinating Observer?
It's shifted everything. I do a lot of the foundation of my work as a transformational coach is really allowing people to find balance between their right and left brains. Of course, our right brain being responsible for the creative side of us, the left brain being the analytical side of us. And really it's about finding harmony and not allowing one side of our brain to beat up the other, because we all know sometimes when we try to get more creative, our left brain comes in and says, no, that's not sensible, that's not functional, what purpose is it accomplishing? So I, being a very right brain and left brain person, experienced a tremendous shift when I lost the vision in my left eye. Because what that does is we express through our vision. So by losing the vision in the left eye, it means my right brain kind of took a nap. It's been taking a nap. And my left brain has really been expressing through this right eye, because they cross hemispheres, of course, through this right eye. And so it's been a matter of understanding, look, why did I have to be more left brain for this project? And in the very beginning, the first 2 days it happened, I literally feel like I was seeing into other dimensions. I would be sitting outside and with this bizarre vision in my left eye, and I would see a hawk sitting in the tree just 2 feet away from me. And I literally froze, like, oh my gosh, it doesn't know I'm here. And then I looked again, and it wasn't there. Within a day, I was watching a chipmunk in my little pot of flowers, and I was like, a chipmunk? And I don't remember last time I saw a chipmunk in Santa Fe. And then it was gone. So it's like, what's happening? Am I just seeing things? Is the perception, the poor vision causing me to play tricks in my head? Or was I actually seeing through into other dimensions in order to be able to really express the concepts of this book? So I don't know. I've talked a lot about it.
Well, I love it that instead of having a conversation with us about fear and for me and, oh, I don't understand what's going on in my life, what you are expressing is not only profound wisdom, but you are embodying what I call the fascinated observer, and about which you are writing. Mm-hmm. So, Jaylene, can you introduce the concept of the fascinated observer who surrenders?
The fascinated observer who surrenders. Let's see, how would I introduce that concept? Well, I think what I would say is that when really cruddy things happen to us in life, that our response stops being, oh my God, that's so cruddy, to, oh my God, that's so fascinating. And as soon as you say that, that's so fascinating, instead of, oh my God, what kind of crap is this? Everything changes. So you move from going deeper into the well of despair to a plateau place. There's that plateau again that's like this transformation, this transition zone, and then you're off somewhere else to another octave. So that fascinated observer helps take you out of hell. I think it's the way out of hell.
Wow. How beautiful. Well, and then, I have a fascination, golly, sorry, as a fascinated observer, of playing around as a baby student of quantum physics. And we've often heard where your attention goes, energy flows. So when you become the fascinated observer and you take your attention off of, oh, my eye is not healthy and, for me, to the exploration of, why did I create this as the sovereign being, creator of our unique reality, then using the higher frequency emotions, we are impacting the field and bringing a different reality to ourselves. So being the fascinated observer is another tool for living in and creating the new earth. I've never said that before, but I think that's true.
I think that's very true. And it's a really powerful tool. And I think what it does is it disrupts the energy. When you go from looking at something to being fascinated by it, If someone cuts you off in traffic, you could go and say a lot of different things to that person that cuts you off in traffic. Or you could go, oh, that's so fascinating. And then as soon as you say that, you find yourself giggling a little bit and you disrupted that energy. You didn't fall into the well. You didn't fall into that place of getting more and more angry. And it's not about, oh, we've got to control our anger and harness the power of anger. It's nothing like that. It's something very different.
I love it. Well, I want to jump back to human divinity and sovereignty because moving parallel through the principles as well as the essential qualities, human divinity is the one that would be the focus of today. And I would ask, why is it we don't talk about this? Why is it that we have a reluctance to express the magnificence of who I know we all are? Christy, is this an embedded genetic thing?
I don't think it's genetic. I think it's societal. I think that I even feel afraid talking about it now. I don't know. I'm just noticing what's happening in my own body. I think there are so many strong belief systems based on the tenets that we aren't in control, that we aren't divine, that it is up to something bigger and better and more powerful to manage us. And I think the process of taking back our own power, I think it challenges a lot of really old paradigms in this world. Only one of which is religion.
So, Jaylene.
Well, I would add into that yes, I totally agree with Christy that it has a lot to do with culture, it has a lot to do with society, it has a lot to do with your religious beliefs or your spiritual beliefs. But I think that another really key element of that is self-worth and self-value, and feeling that you're valuable and that you're worthy and that you don't have to do something to deserve having this. I don't think divinity is something that you deserve. I think it's as innate inside of us as our ability to breathe. Mm-hmm. It's just, can we sit there and say, I can feel it, I can understand it, I can own it, I can conduct myself in the world without being an egotistical maniac and wanting everyone to bow at my feet and kiss my big toe. It's nothing like that kind of thing. It's not a guru kind of energy where we put someone up on a pedestal. It's something very different. I think it's very natural quality.
I wasn't the only one.
One ringy dingy. Maybe that's God calling.
Oh, it's not the phone, it's the machine. Oh, it's so funny. I have the phone outside, but the machine is in charge.
Well, and I think this is really fun because this is Google Hangout. This is normal, everyday conversation that we're having with people who have like minds and want to explore.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is just too distracting. He's going to have it. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to surrender to all of the oddities. I mean, isn't this cool? I mean, we can just get away with all sorts of things now. Oh, gosh. And I have no idea what you said over the last 5 minutes because I've been playing with my phone. But I want to just bring up the subject of safety. And I think for me that's an answer. I feel safe. I'm out of breath, but I feel safe right now. And I have a feeling that if in the question period, we get asked a very intimate or deep or challenging question, that I will not block it or hide from it or conceal my wisdom. And I think that's what's remarkably different about this paradigm from prior paradigms. When we feel safe, then is it not possible for me to say to both of you and everybody else on the line and everybody who's not visible, I know who I am. I am a sovereign being. I am an individual aspect of all that is. I am the creator of my reality. Nobody can do anything to me. I can do no wrong, and I'm responsible for everything I just said. I couldn't do that 10 years ago, first of all, because I had no clue. But second of all, I was watching body language to see whether I was going to be criticized or cast out of the tribe. And now, guess what? I don't care.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Nina. I was having this flashback to a place in time where I made this huge transition about not hiding anything about myself anymore. And it was about the time that I started to work with this whole circle of psychics on their books. And let me tell you what, you have a whole bunch of psychics around you, and the thought process in your mind is, oh my God, they know all my secrets. They know everything about me. I can't hide anywhere. Oh my gosh, what I'm going to do? I can't be like, my kind of, this is how I conduct myself because I'm a publisher and I go into these circles kind of thing. It was very broad, and it was like the most kind of naked I've ever felt. But I got to this place where I could honor every experience that I've had in life, whether someone would come in and judge it, criticize it, see it as right, wrong, kooky, amazing, whatever it was. I just didn't mind anymore if anyone saw all of me. That is, for me, the purest aspect of surrender I can think of in my life.
Oh, it's just beautiful. Wow. Well, and you're making yourself vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but vulnerability is actually invincibility.
Yeah. And I think sometimes the greatest blocks to our own owning our own being and what that even means as our sovereign self is us. I mean, I think one of the things that I've really learned about coming to Santa Fe, I've lived all over, but when I came to Santa Fe, for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't an oddity in some way. But I wonder if that wasn't just my perception of living in a place that I perceived I fit into. When I came to Santa Fe, all of these connections just started pouring in. It was like I was in such a state of opening and flow. But did the people create that? Or did I create that based on my perceptions that I could be open now? I don't even know if this makes sense, but what I'm saying is I think sometimes, like in my own past, I haven't given those around me enough credit. I tell myself that, because I'm here or because I'm there, I'm an oddity. But it really was just me not having enough self-love to own my human divinity wherever I am. And so now I really do feel that I could live anywhere and I could create this same vortex that has happened to me in Santa Fe because it's imprinted. I'm expressing it from a place of wholeness, and you just can't snuff that once you've reached it.
Christy, just share with everyone, I know you've written about it in this new book, about the story with your brother-in-law, because that was surrender for sure, big time.
That was surrender. I was kind of in a period of stuckness because I was working at a wonderful center in Santa Fe, meeting all sorts of incredible people, but it wasn't my life's work. my life's work, I have a master's degree in transpersonal psychology. I'm a transformational coach, and my first passion in life has always been writing. And I was struggling because I was trying to force everything to work through this old paradigm, which is, oh, have the steady paycheck at the cost of your own soul. And, all these things that I was battling inside of myself. And one day, my brother-in-law, who I love dearly, is a big executive for Home Depot, Atlanta. He lives a life much different from mine. He called me because he wanted to tell me something. And what he wanted to tell me was that he asked if I could, he didn't even know I was struggling. I mean, he must have intuited this from across the miles, but he wanted me to know that I was a I was seeing myself as a coach who was hoping to, by building my clientele, create the opening for my writing. And he wanted me to see that a little differently and make a minor shift, and that is see myself as a writer whose work attracts my clients. So instead of me pushing, this big rock up a hill, and it just didn't feel like there was any energy behind it, marketing and doing all the traditional things, he asked me to see it completely differently, follow my love, and through the energy of that love, I will have more clients than I know how to deal with. And so I got off the phone and I said, can I do that? Do I have the right to call myself a writer? And for a split second, I wondered. And then I said, yes, I'm a writer. I declared it. I declared it to the universe. I am a writer whose joy for my writing generates my soul clients. And I just felt this incredible opening. And I don't know how it was going to happen, but I made the opening. And the very next day, I went to lunch with you, and you and Jaylene asked me to write this book, completely out of the blue.
And the part I love to tell is that I didn't know that you could write. There was just something about this that seemed so perfect. And I knew that Jaylene would figure it out, but she never asked you either.
No. And that's another part of surrender is my own personal path is, I don't have to sit here and logically analyze every little bit of information around and dig through 1,000 different documents to see if someone has it or not, to see if I'm supposed to work with someone or not. I just know. And so when you get to that level of surrender where you just know, and then you have this reinforcement that comes from, I just knew and I did, and oh my gosh, that was good. I just knew and I did, and oh my gosh, that was good. And even if you get into some kind of bump or hiccup on the road, it's like it was like this power lift that brought you to this one place, and then you hit this brick wall and you went poof, and you popped over into this other place, and it was all perfect anyway. So when you get to that level of surrender, you just know. You don't have to sit there and analyze things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Nina called me that day, it sometimes I stay pretty busy with the phone time, but it was an appropriate time. We had this great conversation. Christy's sitting at the table with her. I'm talking with her, and I'm seeing it all happen. And so we just all went forward.
It's just so incredible. What I'd love to do is take a little digression and share with everybody the process that I went through when I had the enormous aha for surrender. Because I, like everybody, thought surrender was not such a pretty term or not something I wanted to play with. I was reading Glenda Green's book, Love Without End, Jesus Speaks, and he mentioned infinity, and the definition of infinity space was that it's not out there. It's also inside, and that we are made up primarily of space. So I thought about that for a while, and then I had an intention, and the intention, as I mentioned at the beginning of this call, was to raise millions of dollars for this sacred site. I didn't know how to do it, but I was surrendering. I didn't know surrender at the time. And James and I, the founder of S.T.A.R Dreaming, had created a list of intentions. And Christy, you and I did this for the new book as well. Mm-hmm. We did our very, very best to, I will now use the word choose, what it was that we were envisioning or dreaming for this project. And so when I was on the porch and I was thinking about infinity space, I was thinking about the intentions, I thought, well, why don't I take these intentions and place them into the space of infinity and let go and not do it again. I did it once, and doing it once was enough. And then the other principles come into play. I had to trust that magic would take place and allow that magic. And the only fuel or the only activity for me was to have appreciation and gratitude for what I knew already existed. I just couldn't see it. And I didn't know what time frame it was going to materialize. So that was the aha, and that was when I was talking about falling in love with surrender. That's when I fell in love with surrender and truly understood that my only job as an ego personality at that point was to create the choice and then to surrender it into the field or to hand it over to my human divinity and not force it and not worry about expectations or outcome. So that's the nucleus of how this all began. And I just thank you for letting me share that because I love remembering it. Okay, well, we are, Michelle, we're moving into the end of the first hour and into the second, and anybody that needs to run around and wiggle their toes, feel free. Michelle, how do we do the question and answer?
So,
can we make live the people on the bottom?
No, well, people are able actually to.
So you can answer me?
Yep, can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
Can't hear me.
You can't hear me.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I think if people raise their hand, do we want to come do like a 5-minute break so people can do what they need to do, come back at maybe 5:05 Eastern, and then people can raise their hand if they want to be on screen. There is
Can we make a suggestion about the break? Because we are going to be showing this after the fact. Let's have it continue, but people just leave, and we'll see that they're not on camera, and that'll be that.
Sure. If you do want to be on the camera, up in the upper right-hand corner, there is, you can turn your camera on. It's a little button in the upper right-hand corner. It looks like a little, it's the second button next to the microphone. So you can turn yourself on or off if you'd like. If you want to be on, you can flip yourself on. We also have a chat on the right-hand side of the screen, so you can add your question there if you just want to type it out as well.
And where will that question go? To you or to me?
Everyone actually can see it right here. There you go.
Oh, this is a playground.
There we go. And right now it is. Right now we aren't actually broadcasting, so it's just the 10 of us on the call. But this will be shared later, so on the YouTube channel, just so everyone is aware of that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So who's got the first question? Because I do if nobody doesn't.
And Nina, I've got several questions too that I've collected from people. Are you there?
Okay. How about Ginger? I know you're there. I bet you have a question. Raise your hand. Come on. I dare ya. What do you have to do? You have to go up to...
So let's see. She should be... If you roll over her, See if she's muted by any chance. Is she talking?
Oh, so am I going to have to unmute her?
Yeah,
again?
if she's muted, you might have to. If
Okay. Did that work, Ginger?
There we go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I on?
Yeah. My friend Ginger from Taos.
I don't have any specific question right now, but I'm enjoying listening to everyone, so I'm just gonna
Oh,
bow out.
let me ask you a question. Is that okay?
Sure.
How about surrender in your life? Can you just share? Is that because I guess what we're looking for, and especially as we move deeper into the creation of this new book, S.T.A.R, The Fascinated Observer's Guide, we're looking for what does it feel like to put surrender into everyday experience. It's very nice for me to be academic, which is a lot of what the original book did. But what does it look like for you in everyday life? Where does it become difficult?
Well, when I saw you yesterday, as I shared, I feel, especially for the past 2 years, in coming out from the East Coast out to New Mexico, I have surrendered and surrendered and surrendered some more. And I'm looking to surrender into what my next step is. I have a vision, I have dreams, I have choices for what I'd like. Things don't seem to be gelling just yet, so I'm fascinated by this discussion in finding out how to surrender even more into that.
Ginger, could it not also be a process of timing? I know, and I've never spoken this before, but in order for the outcome to materialize, let me use my own experience. So my vision was to have a publisher for my first book. And I write about this, so I'm not going to go through it again. But it didn't happen. Wonderful things happened. You know, I was awarded A, B, and C, and it's all over the world, and etc. Well, my gosh, I have a publisher, but it's for my second book. And it is Jaylene. I mean, we wouldn't be here now if it weren't for Jaylene asking me to write this book. So it's as if everything had to come into place. Jaylene had to get a telephone call from somebody, Allison, who told her about me. And she had to be ready to receive that call, and I had to be ready, and the world had to be ready. And so all the little dots had to line up in order for that magnificent expression of my original intention, which was much smaller. Way smaller. I never dreamed that I would be where I am right now with that original intention. So timing has, even though there's no time, timing and the conditions of other people's lives interacting with my life had to line up. Does that help at all?
Oh, totally. And I'm a big believer in that kind of jumps ahead to trusting. And I've been in trust. And it's not that the last 2 years haven't been phenomenal in many ways. So I'm just in waiting mode at the moment in my own life. And I surrender, and each day in a new way. I know in my human divinity, in my sovereign self, that everything is absolutely perfect. So,
and you know, there is one action step. There is one action step that I take, and that is having appreciation and gratitude for that which I cannot yet see, but has already come into manifestation. Appreciation and gratitude, appreciation and gratitude.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Ginger. And you get to meet my other playmates here. Does anybody have their hand up? Oh, come on, come on.
Well,
Yeah.
can I read it?
Yeah,
Nina, can you hear?
I can.
Okay. Okay. I want to read you a question from somebody that I received this question a ways back. And she asked, how can I discern between the will of my personality and my divine will? I'm not even sure where to begin with that.
That's a biggie. And so, Christy, the answer is?
No, I want your answer.
Okay, so I want everyone to chip in, please, because there's probably no one answer, there's probably no right answer, and I no longer claim the title, if I ever did, of leader, guru, expert, teacher, no more. We are, and hopefully that is what is unique about this experience. We are all sovereign beings in the presence of sovereign beings, and we are inspiring the remembering of others in this community. So, Christy, read the question one more time.
How can I discern between the will of my personality and my divine will?
What comes to me is there's a little judgment in there, isn't there? That one is better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And what I believe is that we can do no wrong, and that all is perfect. So we can do no more than our very best.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a state of mastery. So if we hold an intention that our will be in alignment with the will of the divine creator, so be it. So be it. What more can we do than that? And it will be a process of the growth of consciousness, the growth of spirit, that we express that in a more expanded way as we go along this journey on the spiral of light. So if we think we haven't done it, oh yes, we have. We've done it to the best of our ability, and it certainly isn't wrong, whatever we did. It was all an experience. Mm-hmm. So holding the intention is what it boils down to. How does that feel, Jaylene?
Well, that feels really good. I love your distinction there about if there's any judgment behind it, then there's something else to consider. But I would say in my own experience, when I've gone through those times where I've wondered if it's my personality or something that I want from my little girl self, because it's kind of like my little girl self, and then there's divine will, which is like the wise crone inside of me. If I'm wondering at all, then I'm not there yet. You know, I'm not to that place. And so some of it is just like playful going back and forth to get to know both of those aspects within myself. Because sometimes the personality knows best, and sometimes the divine will knows best. And so I just get to play in those situations and let them go back and forth until I get to know those voices inside of me.
So the word force comes to mind. I'm just going to say this. Does the divine human have to force events?
No.
I don't think so. However, the ego personality has historically felt it needed to be in control for survival. So maybe looking, Christy, at the presence of force, just like when I was making the telephone call to the fundraiser or the VP of the foundation, I could have called her until she got so sick of my telephone calls that she finally answered. But I recognized the difference between flow and force.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want force in my life at all anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, over here in the right-hand corner is Cheryl. Cheryl, can I force you to talk?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Good.
I just want to say thank you for this forum. This idea has always resonated with me. I've always loved the idea of the salon, and what better can it be than this with people, women of like mind, discussing the processes that we want to live our life by. Um, what I have a few things to say. First is on the previous question. I think it's important to pay attention to what excites us. I think that that is a clue for us as to a direction to go into, and whether it's coming from our divine self or our ego self. But what's been coming up for me and what I'm feeling in this discussion is the idea of balance between um, the divine self and the ego. I mean, it's certainly one thing to acknowledge that we are divine human, um, but what does that really mean for us in our day-to-day life? Um, and I think what I've been discovering for myself lately is because I'm like Ginger, where I have surrendered and surrendered and surrendered. And I just recently realized that I've kind of surrendered myself into a place where I wasn't making any intention. I wasn't looking forward to the future or making any plans at all, and just waiting for it all to come to me. So it just seems to me like maybe the idea is balance, that it all it all kind of works together. And and I always love what you say, Nina, what you just said about force. You've always said, you know, if it's not fun and it's not easy, it's not for me, I don't want to do it. And I totally believe that. But recently for myself, I just realized that I had, kind of given up on making an intention. I had surrendered for so long. So now it's coming more into balance. And
I
that's
love
where I'm
that.
at.
And the analogy of who's the driver of the bus comes to mind. And most of my lifetime, I have had my bus traveling down the path of life on autopilot, thinking that the God outside of me, the supreme being outside of me, would provide me because I'm a good person and have been good today, and so I should have a good job, show up. But I'm not there now. Where I am right now is I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and nothing is really going to happen without my intention and my choice. Ginger and I talked about this yesterday. So what is it you choose? And I don't have to have all of the answers. I don't have Nina does not have to know how to create a S.T.A.R clinic because it's never been done before until we did it. But I do hold the intention, and I do choose to participate in that as my inner voice is requesting. But the divinity of me knows exactly how to do it. So my wholeness, my sovereignty needs to know what it is I'm choosing. How do I want to play the game? And if I don't like the way the game's going, then say thank you very much. I think I got the life lesson. I want to make a different choice here. But prior to that, I was very passive, believing that it would show up. And yes, it will show up, but it'll show up from the subconscious. creating it. But now in this new paradigm, wow, we get to choose consciously because we know we are sovereign beings and the creator of our reality. How cool is that? And I just have to tell everybody how much I love you too, because we got to play on winter solstice. Actually, you weren't there that day, but in Hawaii for the, what do we call it? The Paradise Pilgrims over the winter solstice and help bring in the new paradigm. So thank you for that.
It's fun. Yes, it's that's what I've reconnected with recently is I get to choose. I get to choose, and sometimes that's overwhelming. It's like, well, what do I choose? I can do this and this and this. I can choose anything I want. What's the first step in choosing? And so that's I'm playing with that right now.
And I don't know the answer, but a question you might ask yourself is, where's your passion?
Exactly. It gets back to that idea of what's exciting, what's interesting, to pay attention to that. So.
And no matter what it is, it's all perfect. Because how can it be other than perfect? Because you as a sovereign being created it, no matter what it is. It could be being in the void. I was in the void most of January and February. Big time. And that was okay. I needed to do that in order to let go and take on.
Exactly. I'm trusting that, and I also appreciate what you had to say about timing too. I think all of those things are a factor.
Well, and Cheryl, your comment about salon, I love that. Jaylene, maybe we ought to use that word too as we move forward in this community. Just to repeat what many of you know, what I have learned over the last several years is people are hungry to have the conversation that we're having right now. When I was doing the gathering of golden dolphins, how often I heard, I saw angels when I was 6 and I didn't know who to tell. Well, here this woman was 36 and she was telling us, probably for the first time, in a safe community. So, safe community of light workers, star seeds all over the planet that have told me personally, or not mentioned it, but I know it, are lonely. And more importantly, what we are doing right this minute is we are sending the energy of our thoughts and our words. And these are carefully chosen words. They're not old energy words. They're new energy words into the field, the quantum field. And we are entangling together quantum physics in exponential ways and dreaming the new earth. This is so exciting because guess what? I can't do it by myself. So what has happened today? We think we're talking about surrender. What I think we are a group of star seeds returned to the planet at this particular moment in the evolution of human consciousness, come together in coherent thought on the principles of S.T.A.R, because we have to have a coherent foundation. And we are dreaming. And how do you create the unknown and the future? You dream it. And so that's the playground that we're creating with these Google Hangouts. And I'm so excited. And I want to see them all over the planet. And we'll see. And I have to surrender that. How about that? So how about Jean? Jean, you're down there. Or you're over there. Thank you, Cheryl. Did I scare you away, Jean, or can you pop up? You don't have a photograph. You have a name. Michelle is there?
She's She is invisible. I don't know if she may not be present right now. So
Add to circle.
well, she's on the call, but she may not physically be right here to answer you.
Oh, okay.
So
And so I should stop this forcing. Okay, Jaylene, do you have a question?
Do I have a question?
Well, on your sheet of paper, I have a question.
I didn't bring a sheet of paper today.
Okay.
That was my goal. Surrender, not have agenda.
Well,
fly.
Here's the question for everyone. Everyone, what is the opposite of surrender? Assuming there is one, because it's a 3D word in this context.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Opposite of surrender.
Well,
I see someone standing in front of a wall with a shield in front of him. This is Joanne. With a shield in front of him, not giving up his position, whatever it is, wherever it comes from. To me, that's the opposite of surrender. Is to stand there and take whatever's coming at you and refuse to change.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
And now, and are there situations in which that is a beneficial thing to do? Is surrender always the right choice?
And again, I guess the question I posed in the book was, who is surrendering to what?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just throw in my answer. For me, it is the ego personality surrendering to wholeness, to one's sovereignty.
Okay.
I think Joanne's onto something there. I can definitely see that the opposite of surrender seems like it's a very antiquated idea. Even with I'm supposed to be the word gal here, but even as a word gal, I'm sitting here completely stumped. And it's not very normal for me to be completely stumped about something. But I can see nothing else in that. So the opposite of surrender would be not letting go because you're fearful on some level of losing something. So I guess we're back into that old cliche about the monkey that has his hand on the nut inside the jar and he won't let go of the nut so he can't get his hand out of the jar, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I felt too, is that the opposite of surrender is resistance.
Oh, yay! That's what I was going to say. Michelle, does everybody see just Cheryl on the screen, or are the visions popping up? Because Cheryl, you're just constantly staring at me.
Although that happened to me once a little while back too, but I think it comes and goes. There.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So for you,
there's a bit of lag. We're taking a lot of bandwidth. There's a lot of energy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what it is the energy of the words we're speaking.
That's right.
We're doing some powerful work here. Mm-hmm. So resistance, I absolutely think that's a good choice.
Yeah.
And I think, Jaylene, what came to me while you were saying that as a wordsmith you were stumped, it made me go back to our earlier conversation, which is on different octaves and different expressions and dimensional expressions of surrender, there is no opposite.
Yes. And I can see us moving more and more into that state of being on the planet. I see more and more people modeling that example of not being in a place of duality at all. And it's not that duality is bad, it's not that duality is good, it's just that we're so used to being able to judge where we are in the world based on being able to see something as right, wrong, left, right, up, down, right, turn left kind of thing, that we're learning this new way of wholeness of perceiving the world that's absent of that duality. And it's not because duality is a bad thing, it's because we're just done with that. We don't need the antagonist anymore and the protagonist to move our story along.
That's a perfect. Oh, go ahead.
It sort of speaks.
Raise your hand.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Ginger.
Yes. It sort of speaks to what we were talking about yesterday, Nina, and that is, I see this moving out of the duality as everyone looking towards a more expanded expression of who they are. When you allow all the other things that are in between duality in, then you have this much, it's a much greater field to play in. And that is scary because a lot of people don't know how to do that. They don't know how to do it within themselves. They certainly don't know how to bring other people into it. So just being able to discuss it really puts it out there for people to just go, oh, so it doesn't have to be just this or that. It can be something more than that.
Absolutely. It's like when I see like this transition that we're going from duality to this other thing that is yet to be named in the universe, which I really do think it's yet to be named. I think we're in a very fun experimental zone. How will the human handle this? And we're being monitored right now. They're going, ooh, that didn't work out so good, or man, that was pretty cool. It just depends on what it is. But what I see it being is, like, we've learned how to do addition, we've learned to do subtraction, we've learned multiplication, we've learned division. Yay! We're masters at those kind of things, and so we understand that. And now we're going to this other place where things are measured. They're not even measured anymore where we're going. And so then it's like, oh, okay, well, I can't use my 1 + 1 and 1 - 1. I can't use those anymore here because they're not relevant. And so we're moving into this place that those things just don't apply anymore. We're just done with it. And we're kind of sort of done with math anyway. We have calculators, we have computers that figure out these things for us. So why do we really even need to know that anymore? It's not necessary, and our technology is mirroring that. Even though it's kind of scary to think that maybe my grandkids aren't going to know how to add and subtract, but yet at the same time I have to surrender to that process growing in the world.
So Jaylene, you don't know how to use an abacus, do you?
Actually, I do know how to use abacus.
You caught me, okay.
I do. Those were really fun when I was a kid to be able to use those. Those were a lot of fun. It was like a toy.
Let me ask another question, and this came from Karen, who is at Inner Tapestry. What does it mean to willingly take direction from our own divine self?
And your answer is Nina?
I answered that on Facebook, and I would have to go and look it up and see what I wrote. I'm going to let you all play with that. What does it mean to willingly take direction? Oh, I know. And it maybe is more appropriate for trust. We all have it, that inner compass, that innate knowing, that inner voice that speaks. We're not used to listening to it. And giving ourselves permission to recognize that it is the divine human and that it is the compass for my life. I will move on a dime when I hear that inner voice, even if it's uncomfortable. How does that feel?
Beautiful. To me, what first came to me, what it means to willingly take direction, from our own divine self, to me means receiving. Because to willingly take direction from ourself is to receive from ourself.
Beautiful.
That's how that's how that registered with me.
So I'm going to ask the same question in 3 weeks then. You can count on it. when we're talking about receive.
Yeah.
So Joanne, jump in.
Me, Julie?
Jaylene's fine. Joanne, Ginger.
I think Joanne turned herself off. Joanne, jump in.
No, I did not. I'm still here. I'm just, every once in a while I'm looking at something else. So, doing that terrible multitasking thingy or whatever.
No, it's a Bravo
listening,
multitasking thing
yeah,
that you
yeah,
do. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, taking direction from self is partly, I guess, partly a surrender activity in the sense of accepting that you're sort of listening to that little voice or whatever, and going with whatever it tells you or seems to be telling you. But I kind of agree. I think it was Christy who said, that it's more like, no, it's kind of like the receiving part, but it's just that the way Nina's got it organized, you start with surrender, and then you trust the voice, and then you allow things to be brought into your field to work on, and then you can receive the spiritual abundance that you're looking for. So it is part of the act of surrender, I think, to take that, to be willing to listen, to have a willingness. The willingness is the first thing. There are lots of people who are afraid to be willing, whether it's to go to rehab to beat an addiction, or to take a different way of looking at the world than they've been taught when they were growing up, or to say that they see the angels. That these are all situations in which we surrender in the sense of to that voice and allow it to speak, and get over that fear. I mean, because surrendering is getting over that fear that you're standing in front of the wall with the shield and that you need it. Or I even thought of when Nina was talking about it, I thought of that, anybody know Star Wars?
Oh, yeah.
The scene where Obi-Wan drops the saber and Luke says no, and he says, I will be so much stronger. And Darth Vader, Darth Vader doesn't actually get rid of him. He disappears on his own into the next dimension. And that, to me, is the picture of what willing surrender is. And knowing that it's all okay, which he did, to me, that's just an amazing demonstration of the ultimate of how that can work, I guess.
I love that. There are some amazing things happening in media, channeled material coming through in such subtle ways.
Oh yeah.
So
or just look at the alternatives. Christy was talking about all the, not the either or anymore. Look what's happening in the world. Everybody's talking about, we're going to go to war with Syria, or are we going to let them keep dropping chemicals? And then Mr. Kerry makes an offhand remark, and suddenly we're talking about a third alternative. Think about that. We've been doing third alternatives for a long time now. That's how we got through the Cuban Missile Crisis many, many years ago. Somebody thought outside that dualistic box. Mm-hmm. And it can be done. I mean, I'm just sorry that, like Rene Descartes, the dude who came up with the I think therefore I am thing and the whole dualistic thing. I get mad at him because he created this for us Western people. You go over to Asia and they're like, it's not dualistic. It's all kinds of other things.
Let me ask you a question. Was Descartes wrong?
Was Descartes wrong?
It's a trick question.
No. The right answer is no. No, he wasn't wrong because that's the way he wanted to. That's the way he created his reality to be. I'm just a little sorry that everybody else felt like they had to do what he was, think the way he was thinking.
Well, he gave us an opportunity to make a different choice.
Right. I mean, before that, we were thinking in a sort of medieval kind of way, which had its uses, but was based largely on fear.
So anybody got a question? There's Ginger raising her hand.
It's just, to that point, it's one of the things that I feel that what happens with human beings is that they keep making these past references, and we're just moving this all along. Maybe that was appropriate at the time. I was a philosophy major. I studied Rene Descartes and all that. But we're moving this along to a different place now. So it's, again, what I see it as is a more expanded version of what is coming into our awareness, our consciousness, and what is possible.
Nina?
Yes.
This just segues beautifully into another question that I have received, and I would love to get everyone's view on this. This is a question of duality. It was, there are those who believe that the concept of all of us as divine beings is blasphemous, a grave sin. I'm not sure what to say to these people when they attack my own beliefs in this way.
Beautiful. We had that conversation as a result of our focus group the other day, Christy.
Yeah, it's a big one.
So, somebody raised their hand.
Okay, ask me the question one more time, Christy.
There are those who believe that the concept of all of us as divine beings is blasphemous, a grave sin. I'm not sure what to say to these people when they attack my own beliefs in this way.
Well, okay, so what I've done in my life is I straddle different religions and different philosophies and different cultural backgrounds. And people come to these concepts and they have these cultural backgrounds behind them, and they see something that they don't understand, and then they attack it in some way. So what I've learned to do in my own life is never make someone else wrong. If that's where they are, if that's their concept of what it is, then why do you have to address that with someone else? Just sit there and silently witness it. Let them go through whatever they're going through. Allow them the space to be able to express where they are. It's perfect. Wherever they are, wherever you are, it's completely perfect. But you don't have to engage with them to try to convince them that you're more right than they are. Because then you fall down into hell again. And we don't want to do that anymore. So that's what I do. I can be with anyone from any kind of philosophical background, stand in my own truth of what I see the world to be, reality to be, my opinion on something. I can sit there with that and not have to make them wrong if they don't see it the same way.
Beautiful.
Kind of comes down to self-love, doesn't it? If we have enough of that foundation, that pillar of self-love, then it's not really an assault to us if somebody doesn't believe what we believe.
Well, that's true, but another level for me was self-confidence. It was more self-confidence than it was self-love for me, and I'll tell you why it teetered to that side of it, because part of my own personal journey was to be the creative misfit inside of my family, the creative misfit inside of my church community that I was in, the creative misfit that was labeled blasphemous by a priest at the age of 6. Seriously, this really happened to me. So that was part of where I was in the world. So getting to this place of being confident enough and so solid in what I felt the world was, without having to have anyone agree with me, was a level of self-confidence that was amazing for me to get to.
Don't you think the foundation of self-confidence is self-love? I'm just wondering.
Well, it could be, but for me, I make a distinction between those two things, because I had love for myself at that time, but I didn't have confidence in what I believed, which is different for me.
Yeah.
So, I also think that that goes along with the expanded golden rule, which is do unto all of creation as I would have all of creation do unto me. And my preference on that is to not have anyone try to make me wrong. So I don't try to make them wrong, even if I don't agree with them.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Great question. Yeah, sure.
Well, I would just like to say that, I mean, that's such a huge paradigm shift that we're talking about when you think about mass consciousness and humanity for how many thousands of years now. The whole point of it has been to keep us in fear and control and to make us believe that we are nothing and that we're dependent on all these different things. So it's a huge paradigm shift to believe in our human divinity and to, shine with that. Something that I'm really having fun playing with is I almost prefer now to be around people who don't have any idea about any of this. And I just play the game of seeing them as divine humans, totally respecting them and seeing them in their best light. And I haven't never found any argument with that. Maybe
Whoop,
that
whoop,
takes
Cheryl, go.
maybe that takes a certain level of self-love and self-confidence. But it's a really fun game to play when you can just look at anybody, no matter how they're acting, and stand back with a distance and say, wow, you're just as divine as I am. And I really get a lot of joy out of that.
And are you being the fascinated observer?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But it changes people. So, the business I'm in, I'm meeting new people all the time, briefly, and I notice that my coworkers have difficulty with people sometimes being honoring and obstinate and difficult. And I kind of observe that I don't ever have that people are always treating me with respect and giving me the benefit of the doubt and not questioning me. And I've kind of put the two together, that's it. If I'm able to reflect to them from my own inner self who they are and my appreciation of them, I don't get negativity back. So maybe that's a way to ease into, spreading the vibration other than, having a direct confrontation on beliefs, because again, that's just huge. That's just huge. That's that layer that's been put upon humanity for so long. We don't know how to be sovereign. We don't know how to be out of fear and not feeling that we need to protect ourselves, and be in control so that we can protect ourselves.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Joanne, you said you had your hand up?
Oh, yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I can only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares here.
Yep.
And they're all women. Are there any men in the group today?
Michelle, you can answer that. There's the difference between those who were quick enough to get on so that they could be viewed.
So right now we're not actually broadcasting, so it's just women. But when we share this on YouTube, anyone can view it. So
right. But I'm interested that, and I know quite a few channelers who are men. But I've just been interested in the fact that this sort of central group here is all women, and wondering if I mean, does the whole hormonal thing, testosterone versus estrogen, have an effect on how open people are to thinking in new ways, or I don't know. I'm not trying to draw a conclusion. I'm just curious. I'm the fascinated observer here, seeing that there's an imbalance in a sense. Okay, although as divine beings, we're all divine beings. We're not male or female, but here on the planet, there's a duality there. And why is it that we're all women here today?
Michelle, let me ask a question. Of the 80-some people who expressed an interest in this program, they were not all women.
No, I'd have to look at the numbers, but I want to say there was at least 10 that were men. I want to say somewhere around there. So, if we think about close to 10%, but I can get real specific if you want.
Okay, Michelle, no, that's kind of what I wanted to find out, was not necessarily who was actually active here, but who showed interest in what Nina's doing, and to kind of see that, that we don't want to restrict ourselves to kind of one flavor of energy. I don't know how to put it. And because the fear and control thing has been largely historically the tool of the fact that most of our societies are patriarchal. The men are in charge of them, are in leadership positions externally, and I think that it may be important to understand where that fear and that desire for control of the things outside of ourselves comes from. Because we all kind of, our ego or whatever you call it wants that, because we're afraid of the death of the ego. And it's something that, the whole surrender concept that you're coming up with me in here, to bring it back to what today is about, is if you're female and if you've ever had a child, you understand that there's a sort of surrender that goes with that. Because your body does all kinds of things to you that you seem to have no control over, okay? And men don't ever get to experience that in that same sort of natural sense of something positive happening to you, but you have to surrender to a lot of weird stuff at the same time. And I think that we need to be sure to bring everybody in here to address those fears that keep them from surrendering. And that's what things like your book and this community are going to be about.
Well, then I have a wonderful idea. All of you ladies who are out there right now, bring a man with you next week. Come on, bring him in. Yeah. Okay, then. Have him sit right next to you. Watch on the same computer. Sit side by side. Marry those energies together. So bring the guys. Come on.
And what I'd love to see is people who present who are not comfortable with this conversation, who find surrender something they really don't want to talk about or trust. We had a little bit of that in our focus group, Christy, and I think it was so rich, and certainly was an opportunity for the three of us who are working on this new book to have some very profound conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see how that would be really useful.
We have like 10 minutes left, and what I would like to do is, first of all, say thank you so much to Michelle. Wow. I mean, I have no idea what you went through. What I do know is you have a lot more to go through, because I want to be an expert on this.
You will be. You will.
And that's going to be a challenge. You haven't spoken. Pop in and just say whatever comes to your mind, please.
I'm so thankful for all of you for showing up and being part of this. Just kind of as an observer myself, it's fascinating to hear the connections and to hear the conversations. And so I'm just privileged to be a part of that. So I appreciate all of you just showing up and being here. because it's certainly part of your day, and it's just, but you're giving back to an even larger circle that you may not even realize. So I'm grateful to all of you for showing up.
Michelle, tell us about your work and your relationship to my website. And
oh, sure, yeah. I work with Jennifer, who is Nina's designer. So she and I work together on some projects, and I was fortunate enough to work on Nina's website, doing some of the back-end development and some of the elements of it. So I'm privileged to be part of that project as well.
How about a little marketing? So Jennifer,
marketing for myself.
yeah. Jennifer is viewers like you.
Yes.
And he redesigned me.
Yes.
And your company is?
I'm Minima Designs, and so I'm a web designer, and so I work with the health and wellness industry. So a lot of healers and yoga studios and people who heal the world is usually who I work with. So people who are giving energy to others. So that's primarily who I work with. So, and Jennifer and I have been good friends for a couple of years. So I'm fortunate to live down the street from her as well. So that's so nice.
And so the vision, and this is why I compliment Michelle and Jennifer, is that we are doing a series of 4 based on the principles of S.T.A.R and the essential qualities that will be on the website, on YouTube, as a foundation for conversation, future conversation. We're using Google Hangout as our technology. And then I haven't announced it, but we'll do so now. The request I'm making of Michelle and Jennifer is to spread this across the planet. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, so I'm surrendering to that. And what I'm seeing is that just as we have had what I would call an intimate, safe conversation about a coherent thought, S.T.A.R. Relationships have been made. I don't think Ginger knew Cheryl, knew Joanne, knew Christy, etc. But now you do. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure how we keep that thread going. Long term, certainly I'm happy to share emails with requests, so we'll figure that one out. But I'm seeing in October launching an invitation to have intimate conversations with me, and maybe Christy would like to do this, and Jaylene, I don't know how many books you have to publish, but that's the thought too. And that these little circles would be global, virtual, visual circles, and friendships would be made. And in this whole process, why am I doing it? I said it a few minutes ago. We can't create the new age by ourselves. And I know for a fact that we came back to the planet not only to create the new age, the new golden age, but to anchor it, nourish it, and grow it. And we now have everything we need. We have the acceptance of our sovereignty. We have a global community that knows each other. We're not just all living in Atlantis and nobody else knows who we are. And we have now a technology, and going back to the golden dolphins, we have a golden filament communication system that also exists. So why can't we do this? And we can do it in play. So that's my vision. And we have 5 minutes, so if anybody wants to raise their hand like Jaylene.
Well, I want to bring us back to this one page in your book. That's one of my favorite pages, which is the author's statement to the universe.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, this really is what led into the initial concept of being able to have these circles and groups of people gather together and talk about S.T.A.R. and what it's like to take these very idealistic principles and put them to work in the world that we're living in right now. And one of the last things that you said was, my desire is that many people will start to experiment with S.T.A.R. in their own lives. At this time, there's no certification process for teachers or practitioners, yet there are many people who are already starting to practice these concepts with amazing results. And that's what I feel about these groups is it's a chance for us all to get together, look at how it's working for us in our life and kind of, hold hands. Let's go. Let's hold hands and go.
I love that. And what I felt with the circles over the last couple of years is it helps us grow our human divinity muscle to do it in community. And when we have a nice strong muscle, then we can go out as an individual into the world and nobody can knock us over.
So it's like drinking our milk or eating our spinach?
Yeah. Yeah, but doing it in fun and play and community. I love this. I mean, I have had such fun.
Yeah.
Over this, 2 hours went very quickly.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you, Nina. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ginger. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah, and thanks to all the people that we're not able to get on in this intimate way, but who are going to be tuning in. And my vision is that hundreds of thousands of people see this conversation, this salon, thank you, Cheryl, and are inspired by it, and that we're all available for them, questions, etc. And thank you so much, Jaylene, for asking me and now Christy to put this into print, because it is incredibly, incredibly powerful information and a tool, as I said, for your words, living in and creating the new earth.
Yeah, and I would like to say thank you to everyone too. It's just amazing time spent with some incredible women. Your energy is just so beautiful, and just little word on the power of the community. I had no idea my sister was going to be here, and she was here for most of the conversation. She had to duck out around 3:30. Her name's Jill Lensmeyer. But I had no idea, and starting this conversation, to see her little face there and her name, wow, that just was incredible. And so the next time we do something like this and I see your familiar names, I'm going to feel the same way. So that's just a little testament to how important we are to each other, and just thank you.
Yeah, no accident who showed up.